the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2021 Week 9. DraftKings Picks, by position top stacks, and the best plays lineup at the end. Remember to smash like for the episode. Leave your favorite cheap play down in the comment section. Subscribe to Mayo Media Network. Leave a Spotify and Apple rating and review if you're listening to this as well. And you got to play in the best tournament on DraftKings, the Pat Mayo Experience DraftKings Listeners League link. $15 to play, 3 max entry, no rake. Davis, I never see you in there. Are you afraid of rake-free money or what?
No, I you know what? I'm in it this week. I will send DM me the link. You're right.
No, you can get the link in the description like everyone else. I'm not DMing you the link.
You
don't get special
I'll get the
privilege.
link in the description. You're right, though. This is just a prime example of me being lazy and not grinding the best tournaments. There's really no excuse for it. It's embarrassing on my part.
Well, it is the best tournament for bang for your buck. Obviously, there's no rake. It's $5,000 to the top. There's only 3,000 people in it. Spots are limited. The issue is, as I found, is I could have a lineup in a single entry. I could have a lineup in a 3, like a normal 3 max in the Millionaire Maker. No matter what it is, the lineups in the Listeners League are like good. Like there's very rarely like shitty people down there.
Well, I was gonna say, I would assume that it was worse since they listen to our shitty picks. Like yeah. I would assume that the median lineup quality is actually worse.
No, because no one actually listens to our picks.
Okay, well that's good then.
Yeah, they just like to see who we talk about. They're like, well, I'm not going to do that, so I'll do something else.
So I won't be duped. I won't be duped in this tournament, is what you're saying. No one will dupe me.
I do NFL lineups get duped outside of Showdown? Does that ever happen?
My third biggest NFL score ever last year was duped for $22,000. I think I was duped in the SPY for we tied for third with the exact same lineup. Was it just like an optimizer lineup then? It was Cowboys, Browns, Dak Prescott, double stack, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper with Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, bring back, and there was like a chalk tight end that week and a chalk defense, and so we duped each other. I find that so surprising that you would match up 9 for 9 on either side, even if you had the two chalk like cheap players at whatever position and the same stack. It just, the other two one-offs would feel like that they would just have to be different. I guess once you're like 7 deep in roster construction, then logically you would end up very on the limited guys. Yeah. There's a really limited number. I don't remember every play. I remember Ronald Jones was in the flex and he was like 2% owned or whatever, and this other person happened to have him. Was Ronald Jones playing in the late game? Because if you posted your lineup and won 20K and you had someone from like the early set of games in the flex versus someone in the late set of games that you could have had in, people would be like, it's not even worth the 20 grand. All right. Well, now I have to go investigate to see if it was. So it was week 4 of the NFL last year. This is going to take me a second. All right. Tampa Bay they were in the late slate. There we go. So it was a justifiable win. There you go. Because it wouldn't count if you did that. You know that, right? At least that's what Twitter says. It's correct. No, that is correct. It doesn't count. DraftKings actually, they take the money back. You don't get paid out if you play a late guy. If you play an early guy in the flex, I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, but it is the way it is. It's tough scenes. Everyone go play in the league. If you do want to run your own projections and use the optimizer and lineup generator, go to runthesims.com/Mayo. All the tools are up there. You can get the yearly, the monthly, the weekly. There is a deal on the monthly right now. You get 25% off with code RTS. But if you go to runthesims.com/Mayo, you'll see it all on the screen in front of you. That's the overall discount page, plus discounts upon discounts once you go up there. If you're trying to get big into DraftKings or any DFS right now, or even sports betting, because the player prop tool is top notch. Highly recommend that. runthesims.com/Mayo. Let's talk stacks for the week. That's what we're starting with now, because I think that's the one thing that people really do care about. Baltimore, Minnesota, is that the game that people are going after, do you think? No, I would not anticipate that being the most popular just because Minnesota has such a low team total of 21. I actually think people will do the Dallas stack because Amari Cooper is going to be so popular, And then Alberto Cuibunum looks like this week's answer to Dan Arnold as the cheap tight end that everyone plays. And I think that Chargers-Eagles game will get a little bit of traction. And then I'm very interested to see what people do with Jordan Love in Kansas City.
Well, Jordan Love is $4,400. We're not entirely sure who's going to be a part of this receiving core. It looks like Lazard and Marcus Valdez-Scantling are going to play. You give him Devontae Adams, I mean, all of a sudden, I actually think the play in the Green Bay game is just to use Aaron Jones.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Jones, he has this huge role. The thing, I mean, I would be very worried that the Packers game plan looks very similar to what they did to beat the Cardinals, where AJ Dillon just absolutely ate, because he is the better, and this might even sound blasphemous, but he is the better running back, right? In terms of just consistently gaining 4 yards per carry, no matter what. And how are you going to beat the Chiefs? I mean, the Chiefs suck anyways right now, so maybe they're not stressing about it, but I would assume it'd be very similar to where it was against the Cardinals, where they just, without any wide receivers, they just really played super conservative, passes near the line of scrimmage, and they just ran as much as possible. I
guess the question would be, if you went with the Jordan Love stack and you saved all of that money, let's say Adams is out, because we don't know as of yet. Do you think he's going to play? Because I guess it all depends on his negative tests, right?
Yeah. And so we're recording this Thursday morning. It's 8:45 a.m. Central Time. I would imagine probably by the time people are listening to this, we will know if he has gotten a negative test yet. So if people are listening to this Thursday afternoon, I would imagine that, we'd have our blurb on Adams either having a positive or negative test.
The thing is, do you need to save all that money this week? Are there enough elite options that you have to pay up for? Because it does seem like there are some pretty good one-off options that are discount prices.
There are one-offs at basically every price point at running back and at wide receiver that are interesting. So I think that, don't you think the interesting Jordan Love thing is actually to not play anyone else from that game? Hope Jordan Love gets 21 with a passing touchdown to Mercedes Lewis and a rushing touchdown. And then, you load up McCaffrey's back this week.
Do we know that McCaffrey's actually back this week?
No, we don't. So he is back at practice, but has not been, he's been designated for return, but he can come off anytime for the next 3 weeks now. So we don't know for sure.
So that's going to be a tricky spot. If you wanted to play one of the higher end stacks, do you think that people will go back to the Bills against Jacksonville just after what happened with Josh Allen last week? Diggs wasn't very good. Sanders put up a 0. They'll probably, if they do it, just go Beasley and Allen. But this could be the week to do Diggs, Sanders, and Josh Allen. And hopefully it's the week that they score 50 points.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen will always cull a little bit of ownership in his stacks. Well, I mean, we have Josh Allen as the second highest owned quarterback behind Lamar Jackson. But in terms of his wide receivers, I actually think, I mean, we say this every week, it feels like, but because of all this ownership is going to go to Tyreek, Diggs looks like another buy spot, but we have all of Diggs, Sanders, Beasley, and Knox as positive leverage plays.
Where do you have Patrick Mahomes in terms of ownership right now?
We have Patrick Mahomes. Let me close out of Buffalo here real quick. My guess is we don't have him as very chalky at all. We have Mahomes at 5.5% projected ownership. So the fourth most owned quarterback behind Allen, Lamar, and Jalen Hurts. So
if you can kind of squeeze it together, it's going to be very expensive, and maybe it won't work unless you have the perfect one-offs. But I mean, the most success that I've had on DraftKings, besides stacking Brady so far this year, but the past 2 years, is just constantly playing Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, the running back, bring back, and just loading my team with the chalky, cheap plays at all the other positions. I think you can probably get away with that this week too if you wanted to play Aaron Jones. If you go Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, Aaron Jones, you have around $4,000 left. I think that if you take the cheap defense, the cheap tight end, that you can still get another value running back into your lineup and then just hit that mid-tier of wide receiver and you could potentially be good to go.
Yeah. And, I mean, the key part of what you just said is Travis Kelce is not going to be chalk. He really is not. People are such visceral creatures. We all watched him on that Monday night game, just get shucked to the ground by these Giants cornerbacks. He's had a couple bad games in a row. People are going to be jamming in on Tyreek. It's just going to be truly absurd ownership on Tyreek and Amari Cooper in all of these tournaments. So I think Kelce, in terms of a one-off and in stacks, looks like pretty much the best leverage play of the week.
Could you do Chargers stack? I saw Herbert's dealing with a right hand injury, which does not sound great. Mike Williams has been pretty underwhelming. That does seem like a game where, especially if there are two teams that love going for it on fourth down. Now, one team, the Chargers, is actually good at getting fourth downs. The Eagles, not so much. But you could create some pretty short fields and increase the scoring very quickly in that game. So I was thinking Charger side, that wouldn't be popular, or even try to do the Eagle side because everyone's just so furious with Jalen Hurts. And there's probably not going to be JJ Arcega-Whiteside. There's probably not going to be Reagor in this game. So you could do Hurts by himself. You could do Hurts with Goddard. You could do Hurts with Goddard and Quez Watkins or Devonta Smith. And then you have like Eckler on the comeback the other way around. Like, I think there are some pretty interesting games. I do want to circle back to that Baltimore game, though. I mean, the team total for Minnesota down at 21, I guess so. It's not like Baltimore's defense has impressed anyone so far this year. And you could use Lamar, which everyone seems to want to do. He is most definitely the highest ceiling of any quarterback on this slate. And his options with Sammy Watkins currently not playing or not practicing. Latavius Murray hasn't returned to practice as of yet. If you wanted to put him with Hollywood Brown or Mark Andrews or Rashad Bateman, you could do like a skinny stack that way and bring back Thielen or bring back Cook or bring back Jefferson, whoever it might be.
I mean, I'm in on that because I have just really loved the idea that for the first time in his career, not only is Lamar Jackson stackable, but he is double stackable. That you can use Marquise Brown, who's 6,000 on DraftKings, and Mark Andrews at 5,500, and you feel that there's actually a rational chance of both of them getting there. And we really haven't seen the Ravens explosion passing game happen yet because these dusty running backs keep scoring the touchdowns in close. But 1 week where those guys all fail and those either turn into Lamar rushing touchdowns or Mark Andrews or Marquise Brown or Rashad Bateman touchdowns. I mean, we're talking about Lamar with legitimate, double bonus upside. If this is a really competitive game, he can easily run for 100 yards and throw for 300. Hollywood Brown had 306 air yards against the Cincinnati Bengals. And Mark Andrews' target volume is just like stone cold right now. He had that 44-point explosion against the Colts, but his role is really strong. He's going to be, the primary red zone guy. And I actually think someone could reasonably argue that the Ravens single game upside right now in terms of like 99th percentile outcomes is actually higher than the Chiefs because they don't suck right now.
Well, I would say that the Bills probably have the highest scoring potential of any team on this slate. If we were talking if everything went to the 99th percentile, it's the Bills that do the most scoring.
Yes, that presumes, some sort of competitive game from the Jaguars. Which,
I don't think that you necessarily need that, though. The Bills love running up the score.
The Bills do love running up the score. I mean, Josh Allen ran for a touchdown with like 4 minutes left up. What was it? They were up 21-11 or something.
Yeah, they were up 9.
So
yeah. So
I don't. The thing is, though, is that the pricing is a little tighter when you get on the Bills guys. For example, Hollywood Brown at 6,000 versus Emmanuel Sanders at what was he 5,500? I mean, it's like not even close. Like Marquise Brown at the 99th percentile or even 90th percentile, he's like 10 points better than Manny Sanders. I could actually check that in our projections real quick if I wanted to say something mathematical instead of just guessing. But I think now you are right that Josh Allen has that same insane range of outcomes. The same as Lamar, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a game that you do want to have some exposure to in some way. Now, we don't know if James Robinson is playing. I don't necessarily know if you want to take Carlos Hyde, but he would be a starting running back who's going to catch all the... Like, they have no one else, so it's going to be Carlos Hyde. It might be the worst type of volume, but it'll be volume nonetheless. Agnew has really pushed your boy Chenault over to the side, hasn't he?
Oh, he's done, dude. We're all aboard the Swagnew train for now, which is hilarious because apparently he learned how to play wide receiver from watching YouTube videos during COVID quarantine. Like he was just like a special teams like punt returner. So I don't know, but the Jaguars are. I mean, they're disgusting. Like what a terrible team to have to talk about.
So is there any stack value in some of these other games like Atlanta, New Orleans? And I guess we're presuming Taysom is playing quarterback. I mean, that's what it looks like right now, right?
So that's what it looks like, but Taysom is not technically cleared every stage of concussion protocol, which is weird because he's been out with a concussion for almost 3 weeks now at this point. So you would think that he should be close, but they went through their bye week and the Saints get back last week and he was not cleared, by I guess the independent neurologist. So I'm assuming that Taysom starts, but it doesn't feel like a lock at this point.
And that doesn't feel like a game where Taysom, I actually do have interest in because he's Hurts-like in the way that you want him to score. And I don't even know if you play him with anyone else, like maybe Traquan.
No, I don't think you stack him at all. I think you could do a bring back because I would imagine that if Taysom gets there, one of Patterson, Mike Davis, Sharp, Zacchaeus Pitts gets there. But I do think you are kind of throwing darts on which one it is because, the Falcons offense just looks so uninspiring without Calvin Ridley.
Is there a chance that this Cardinals and 49ers game becomes a shootout? Because that's not what we saw last time when Trey Lance was starting. But now we have Jimmy G. The Cardinals have had problems moving the ball on the Niners defense. They're getting healthier. No A.J. Green this week, though. DeAndre Hopkins is banged up. I don't really know what to make of that game. I do know I like Elijah Mitchell in that game against the Cardinals' bad run defense.
I love Elijah Mitchell in that game. The problem with that game turning into a shootout is it looks right now like the line to me is kind of saying that Colt McCoy or Chris Streveler is going to be starting at quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals.
I don't think that's going to happen though. Even Cliff Kingsbury came out and said just like if Kyler doesn't practice, he's probably still going to play. I wouldn't worry about that.
For sure Kyler will play in this game if he is physically capable of doing it. I don't have any disagreement there, but I guess if you are feeling that way right now, you can get, Arizona is not even listed at some sports books. So I get maybe that, and maybe right now, again, as we're recording Thursday morning, maybe that indicates a change in his status. But when I was making my picks for this pick contest that I'm in yesterday, San Francisco was favored, which felt bizarre to me.
Speaking of picks contest, where do you live in Missouri? Do they have Prize Picks there?
I think they don't. I think I would imagine that we are actually one of the last states to get all of that stuff. Like there are 29 states in the United States that have legalized mobile sports betting now. I would bet, I would set the over under at Missouri at like the 45th and a half state to have legalized mobile betting.
Well, we have the props pool. So it's a props pick 'em pool for all the viewers out there. If you just deposit at prizepicks.com, use code MMN. Although if you do Thursday night football and you use code MMNNFL and you play a Thursday night football contest and Mike White throws for more than 1 yard in the game, you get another bonus $25. So you get the match deposit of up to $100. A deposit 100, get 200. Play a Thursday night entry, you get another $25 if Mike White throws for over. You don't even need to use Mike White, but as long as he does that, you get a bonus. And we have the season-long props contest, which we've been doing, where you have to play 5 over-under props on Prize Picks every single week between Thursday and Sunday players, no Monday night players, and you put in an entry of $7.11. And if you go 5 for 5, you get your 10 times payout plus a bonus $50 on top of it. And it's really late in the season to start now and try to come back. That's probably impossible. But I think that we're going to do it again for the playoffs. So I'd recommend everyone getting into it right now. So by the time the playoffs come along, you can just reset with us. We'll have more prizes, more bonuses. I think top prize in this one is like $5,000 that they're giving away, $3,000. They tried to make it higher. Let me ask you this. When it comes to prize pool distribution, because they asked me what they wanted the payouts to be. And I think that they were going to do I think the original one was $10,000 for first, $500 for second, $250 for third. And I was like, I don't think that, if we're going to have 500, 600, 700 people in this, that's not necessarily winning 10 grand would be awesome, but I think it'd be just better allocated. And which we ended up doing was 5, 3, 2, 1, 750, 500. top 10 kind of pays that way. What do you make of
I
that?
mean, I think that most people in our sphere, of course, would argue for the more balanced payouts because we all sort of have this innate understanding that there's really not that big of a difference between getting first and 10th in one of these contests. It's just kind of a couple bounces of the ball one way here or the other tends to determine that. So I'm always in favor of the flatter payouts.
But I'll tell you, going 5 of 5 in the props contest, I have yet to do it this year. I've had 4 of 5 a bunch of times, but props maybe not as easy as some people make them out to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you log on to Twitter, you would assume that props you never get limited anywhere. No one ever limits you. So you don't have to deal with any of that. The line never moves. And that prop betting is just simply the easiest thing you could ever do. And that all it takes is signing up for a sports betting account and you just, tail your content provider of choice. They're very hard. I mean, they're not very hard. They're much more difficult than they were 3 years ago before all these people were paying attention and touting them and betting them.
Yeah. And like even at Run the Sims, we have the player prop tool. I've been taking the 10 biggest like favorites per week, and I think it's averaging like 6.7 out of 10 like when you average them out. So that's been doing really well. But I mean, I don't know if that's a small sample size. I mean, it's 8 weeks. What does that really tell us? I'm glad that it's 6.7 out of 10 and not 2.1 out of 10. I suppose that's a positive. But that's always going to be inherently the thing with football, though, is that everything is such small sample size and nothing's consistent enough. Like you have different quarterbacks, different linemen. Like that's why I'm always kind of dubious about advanced analytics in football. Now, when it comes to win probability, going for it, going for 2-point conversions, I think that stuff is pretty solid because the variables don't really change. The players change, obviously, but trying to get 2 yards versus punting, like you can actually track the win probability of what that's going to be. But when it comes to like even things like run defense or pass defense or coverage, like there is so much subjectivity to that to begin with because someone is actually grading it because it's not just like it's a number. Like when you look at Pro Football Focus, like someone is watching that and giving someone a grade. Now, they're probably the best at what they do, but at the same time, someone could have a bias. Someone could be wrong, but that's baked into those numbers. And when you have 11 people versus 11 people doing 11 different things, and they're not always the same 22 people on the field, like I don't know exactly how accurate any of this stuff can be.
Well, where analytics where like football coaches would be like, you don't understand is basically your point, which is like, you got to kind of feel it in the moment if we can get it on 4th and 2 or whatever from our own 39. And what the analytics people would tell you is that doesn't matter if you think you can get it or if you can't. They'll just say on average for all teams that have ever done this in similar scenarios, they've been successful X percentage of the time. And that's resulted in the win probability changing, Y percentage. And the football coaches would again be like, well, our running back, whatever, like, or we don't have a good play for this, or our quarterback is not good at quarterback sneaks, or we don't want to throw, we don't feel comfortable throwing in those scenarios. So the defense loads the box. And the nerds would just tell you, that's literally your job as a coach, is to figure out how to add the most win probability to the players you have.
No, I agree with you on that because that scenario, when it comes to going for 4th downs, going for 2-point conversions, like in-game decision making, I do think you can rely heavily on advanced analytics because that's all just probability. But when we're actually like talking about pass defenses or particular matchups, like there's so much unknown about that stuff. I think that sometimes we rely on what the numbers tell us too much on that. Like I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at PFF. The Chargers and Chiefs are the 2 worst run defenses in football. Now, watching the games, that tracks. But if the Chiefs add Melvin Gordon in, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, let's not get at the passer, let's concentrate more on the run game. That's not quantified in that number anymore because the personnel is constantly changing. That's why I find it tough to buy too much into that stuff.
Oh, I don't use like any of that stuff, like the wide receiver cornerback matchups, or like this team's really good against the tight end, or this team's really bad against the tight end. This team has a bad run. Like I mean, honest to God, I really don't even look. Like I wouldn't even know how to quantify that stuff. Like basically the things that matter to me for DFS are like team total, expected volume for all of the individual players, and pace of play. Like pace of play is something that is really the most important. Like a Bills game will have like on average, like, 25 more like total plays than, like a Cleveland Browns game, and that stuff really matters. But like, I think people say the Bills defense is really good.
The Bills defense is rated per PFF as the #1 defense in football.
Right. But last week, Devontae Parker totally got there. And Jalen Waddle had 12 targets, and like he sucked or whatever, but he was on like the razor's edge of having like, like the same absurd game that he had in London as like a Bills bring back. So like, and people tend to have like those binary results. Like someone's yelling at their phone right now, like, duh, you nerd. Of course, Jalen Waddle got these targets and didn't do anything. The Bills defense is good. And it's just like, I don't really care, because the volume is the stuff that ends up being more important and more predictive in the end.
And I would counter and push back on that with one of the main reasons I didn't like the Miami offense, why I thought they would struggle last week, is they can't block. They have the worst offensive line in football.
They suck.
Just getting the ball to the receivers. I mean, Parker made some nice catches. It's not like he absolutely went off against the Bills. But Tua just didn't have time to throw. Like every time he took a 2-step drop back, like there was someone in his face. So just no matter how many times they threw, which was a bunch, just the quality of those targets was going to be really bad.
Like the quality of targets or whatever. But I mean, I think Jalen Waddle had like the 5th most targets of any wide receiver in the main slate last week, and he was 5,400, if memory serves me correctly. So like, I don't know. I'm probably just buying that guy every single time, especially at his ownership, and especially in the correlation, right? Because those Josh Allen teams, and I know, if you happen to do Beasley or whatever as your guy with him last week, the correlation with Waddle or with Parker would have been really strong.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have won anything.
Well, you would have had Jalen Waddle converted his targets.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. If the guys you used were better, you would have won. Correct. Right.
But that's what I'm saying is that we have no ability to control the efficiency for these players, but we do have a better idea of their expected volume. I mean, Tua threw 39 times or whatever. Like they're just throwing so much. So that was a spot I really liked last week.
Well, this is all a roundabout way of me saying that, well, it's difficult to trust in some of these numbers. The one thing that I do trust in that leads to a lot of my decision making is the grading, whether it's from Football Outsiders or Pro Football Focus or whoever does these metrics, is pass rush versus bad pass blocking offensive line. I just find that especially when scouting defenses, is going to be the number one. Which tends to be
predictive week over week. Like that actually tends to be something that when you look back at the results of games and you map it out, that tends to be something that's predictive. Whereas people do like the DVOA versus running backs or whatever, and that stuff tends to be not predictive at all for running back, like fantasy points.
Well, let's go back to some of these stacks for a second. Would you want any part of the Houston-Miami game?
Yeah, because the Dolphins have completely abandoned running the ball. So if we get 42 passing attempts for these really reasonable priced pass catchers against the Texans, I think that they just have a clear opportunity to smash, right? Because Tua, over their last 4 games or last 3 games since he came off of the short-term IR, 47 passing attempts, 40 passing attempts, 39 passing attempts. He's added at least 3 fantasy points with his legs in every single game, has rushed for 1 touchdown, had the smash against Atlanta, or really a smash against Jacksonville as well. And you know exactly who to stack with him. There are 3 guys you can stack with him, and there is exactly 1 bring back on the Houston Texans roster too. So it's just a very easy play to make.
Yeah, Jordan Akins.
Well, I forgot that you love shitty Texans pass catchers. It's like, who was the guy? It was when Hopkins.
No, it was the Duke of Ellington.
It was. Yeah, Ellington.
Who was good, by the way.
He did get there a couple times, I remember, but you just love these 3K Houston Texans shitters.
Well, what's Nico Collins this week? He's starting to do stuff. Oh, Nico, $3,600? All in.
No, so I would only use Cooks. Oh, Nico did go 4 targets, 4 receptions, 55 yards last week. But
what do you make of the Vegas Giants game?
That just feels very bizarre, right? So like one team is literally dealing with replacing a guy who killed someone. So that's I feel like that just, kind of puts the building in turmoil a little bit. And the Giants have like a different starting wide receiver group every week because someone gets hurt and then someone else comes in and then someone gets hurt. I guess they're going to have it's Slayton, Kadarius Toney, and John Ross as their guys. I don't know. I have like no interest in anyone in that game. Maybe Kadarius Toney if he's going to start, because he should have the slot wide receiver job to himself now with Sterling Shepard injured. But and I guess Waller too, right? Waller should see a bump in targets with no Ruggs.
Yeah, well, it depends on who you think takes over that Ruggs role as sort of the deep threat on this team. Logic would probably say it's Edwards.
Zay Jones.
It could be Zay Jones. Exactly. He's $3,000. Like, just looking at the receivers in this game, like Derek Carr is going to chuck. I don't know how healthy Jacobs is at the moment. Like, if you kind of try to compartmentalize taking that stuff out of it, and if they're just the Raiders on paper, how are they going to play? I think the bring back of Toney makes a ton of sense as long as his like finger is healed. He's $5,200. Galladay might play in this game. I don't know. But like, you have Renfrow, Waller, and Derek Carr with Kadarius Toney. Then you can use anyone else you want on this slate. You could pay up for a one-off. You could play Kelsey Waller double flex if you wanted to. You could pay up for two big wide receivers or two big running backs. Like, it's one of the cheaper stacks. I think you can only use one guy from the bring back on the Giants. I don't think they score enough points, but they have enough if you can pick the right guy that they could be very fantasy viable. Like, Toney could have like 14 targets in this game if he's right.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably play Toney. Like, I would feel comfortable playing Toney as a one-off, and maybe I'll be wrong. Right? We got some bad defenses here. We have Daniel Jones has got a little bit of rushing upside. Derek Carr
but we don't, because the Vegas's defense is actually pretty good.
I mean, to be honest with you, I have no way to evaluate if that's true or not. I just assume they're not very good.
I mean, they've been pretty good so far this year. Maybe it's smoke and mirrors, but just going back and looking through their games, they're like, oh yeah, they're actually pretty good at limiting the other teams because their pass rush is awesome.
So they have, you're right. They have been very good. League ranked defense. They are 4th in the NFL in opposing quarterbacks net adjusted yards per attempt. So I'm wrong. They've been very good. So there you go. I mean, I wasn't really that interested in this game either. Like, another big thing is that the Giants have this terrible offensive volume when games are close, because that's the offense that Jason Garrett runs, and they don't trust Daniel Jones, which I guess they shouldn't trust Daniel Jones. I just hate the New York Giants. Like, I'm like they just disgust me. They're like my least favorite team in the NFL.
So if we're just going pure team stacks, it looks like the Bills, the Ravens, the Cowboys, and maybe bring one back from the other side. Like, who's the Denver guy to bring back? You said Al O, but could it be Melvin Gordon? Like, there's one spot to get to Dallas if the game dictates it. It is on the ground.
I mean, I would assume Judy ends up being the best. I mean, he came back, showed no setbacks from the high ankle sprain. He had 7 targets in the first half against the Giants in week 1 before he got banged up. You know, there certainly is a skill buying opportunity in Jerry Jeudy if you think of him as a very skilled player. If I had to place a wager who has the most targets on the Denver Broncos from week 9 to the end of the season, I would say Jeudy. But the problem with Akui Bunum, I mean, he is very cheap, but the problem is he is gonna reach Dan Arnold levels of ownership from last week, which is in general not great, probably.
Probably not, but do we know for sure that Noah Fant isn't playing? Because if he got like a double negative, I think he can play in this game.
So he tested positive on Tuesday. So he has to produce 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. I would assume if he had 1 negative test, we'd know by now. I mean, maybe not. So in my memory, I don't remember a guy testing positive Monday or Tuesday and coming back and playing on Sunday. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened this season, but I feel like every time we've gotten one of these positive tests on Monday or Tuesday, the guy hasn't played.
All right, let's talk one-offs at running back then, the best ways to do that. I mean, you can always play with the correlation as well. Kamara is the highest priced running back. I just don't like Kamara if it's Taysom Hill, like that's a tough sell for me because he just doesn't pass to running backs.
Yeah, but didn't, if I remember correctly, wasn't the 6-touchdown Kamara game with Taysom at quarterback?
I believe
I'm pretty sure that's true.
I believe it was, but I think in the other games that were surrounding that, Kamara wasn't all that great. At least that's my memory of the situation.
I can tell you here real quick. So it was the game against Atlanta was the first one he started. Kamara went 13 for 45, scored a touchdown, 1 target, 0 receptions, 11 for 54 in that Kendall Hinton game. He only played 48% of the snaps because they were winning by so much. The next Atlanta game, 15 for 88 on the ground, 1 touchdown, 3 targets, 2 receptions. And then the Minnesota game, 22 carries, 155 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 targets, 3 receptions.
That was actually a Drew Brees game, by the way.
It was okay. There we go. I was wrong.
Yeah, Brees went 19.
Always happy.
19 for 26 in that game. So
I mean, the thesis behind Kamara in with Taysom would just be that they don't want to give Mark Ingram 20 carries or whatever. They need to win this. Every game right now is a must win for the Saints because the Buccaneers lead the division and the wild card race is going to be so tight in the NFC. So they can't really lollygag around in any of these games. So babying Kamara is not really a thing they could do. And 22 carries here for Kamara is in the range of outcomes.
But 22 carries for Kamara just isn't getting him there. He's had 2 games over 100 yards the past 2 years. He's just not been that effective on the ground as a yardage runner. He's scoring the touchdowns near the goal line. That's great. But if he's not catching passes, I'm not paying for him as the highest price guy, especially if McCaffrey plays and he's $200 cheaper somehow. I don't care if he's limited or not, or doesn't get the full snap share. I'm playing Christian McCaffrey over Alvin Kamara in that spot. And then Eckler is $7,900 against a terrible run defense with Philadelphia. And I mean, Mike Williams looks like he's banged up. Keenan Allen doesn't look exactly the same. Eckler seems like the play here at 79.
I mean, if Kamara is if McCaffrey is active, I will just be playing Christian McCaffrey. But the weird thing about running back is, honestly, I'm not even, and this has been true pretty much every week of the season. In general, I'm just not that interested in these expensive running backs. I want to play expensive wide receivers, and I want to play 6K running back lottery. That feels like the best strategy pretty much any given week. I
mean, you can even look at it the other way, too. As one-offs, Elijah Mitchell didn't practice on Wednesday. He's expected to play. I mentioned the Cardinals' run defense has not been all that great. If you think that this is a competitive game, Mitchell, although he doesn't do a ton of pass catching out of the backfield, $5,800 is a pretty good price for a guy who could have 24 carries in this game and have all of the goal line work. Not really sweating JaMychal Hasty too much. So I think that he's the one-off that you can go to. I think a lot of people will go to Zach Moss at $5,300, which could be a really good play, but it could also leave you with 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% aligned with you on Eli Mitchell, which is probably a problem, right? If you and I are both 100% aligned on a play, one, that probably suggests that it's going to go terribly wrong, but also would suggest that he is going to be far too chalky for a running back who literally has not caught a pass for 2 games. So though I will say right now we have him projected at 12% projected ownership, but 18% to be in the optimal lineup, which would mean even at 12% owned, he would still be a leverage play.
I think that 12 seems about right in terms of ownership in large field GPPs, only because if you go down, Zach Moss is $5,300. You can make a pretty compelling case for Boston Scott against this terrible Chargers run defense at $5,200, and hopefully Jordan Howard doesn't steal his touchdowns and all of a sudden he's a great play. Melvin Gordon, I mean, we don't have official word that Jacobs is going to be back, thus putting Kenyon Drake at $5,100 potentially back into play as well. I mean, people might say, you know what? Melvin Gordon sucks. I'll play Javonte at 48. Latavius Murray might sit again. And then you have Devonta Freeman sitting there at $4,900. I think there's enough cheap plays that you're not going to see super high ownership in out of all the 6K guys, who is the one that everyone's going to? I'm looking at these 6K guys and being not really for me.
And you didn't even cover all of the guys who could be played, right? Darrell Williams, Damian Harris, Chuba Hubbard if McCaffrey does not play, Devonta Booker, who's really no one has I've not heard anyone tout this guy, but Devonta Booker is just getting Saquon Barkley's workload. I mean, 93% of the snaps against Kansas City, 82% of the snaps against Carolina. No other running back is getting carries. He's had 6 and 3 targets each of the last 2 weeks. Like there are literally probably like 15 playable running backs cheaper than 6,000, which is like crazy.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention Myles Gaskin, who could end up with like 70% of the workload against the Texans and catch passes out of the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, we have Gaskin as a big value play. We didn't mention Chubb, who I would not play, but the hand in the dirt people love to play Nick Chubb.
I want to see what his
Edmonds.
I won the biggest bet I've made on a prop so far this year was Nick Chubb last week actually, and it hit within like 40 seconds of the game starting. His over under receiving yards was 5.5, and he only had the one catch, but.
He only had one.
Yeah, but it was for 9 yards, so it hit. But like that just seems so low for a guy that's going to play like 75% of the time.
Yeah, I've made similar. I actually even remember when it was a Browns Jaguars Thursday night game, and it was Nick Chubb receiving yards 8 yards, and he got it on like the first drive for like 8.5. And it was his only reception all game. Though that's actually a good one to keep your eye out for when it gets posted.
I'm guessing it probably opens at 7.5 this week, and then it becomes, you would think that if Nick Chubb has a reception, it's probably not going to be for 1 yard. It's going to be for like 7 or 8 yards. So once you get into the 7.5, 8.5, then it becomes a bit more problematic in order to try to hit that cover. But I just don't understand why they don't throw to him more. Because it's the same case that people always made with Derrick Henry all these years, where it's like, oh, he can't catch. And then they started throwing it to him. It's like, oh, he can catch, and he's actually pretty good at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why, especially because they have just gotten so little playmaking out of their wide receivers, and they play. I saw this tweet this week that they play 21% of their snaps out of 13 personnel. Like, I do not understand why they would not be throwing to Chubb more, even if Hunt is the receiving specialist.
Wow, you need to get Harrison Bryant some of those pass blocking reps, maybe some red zone targets, and just screw everyone over, because that's the fun way to play football if you're the Cleveland Browns. We didn't talk at all about the Browns Bengals game. I think when I do the best bet show on Friday, that the under in that game feels right to me, unless the running backs go absolutely mental. But that just seems like such a slow pace, slogging game, at least to me.
Yeah, maybe probably T is the only like one off that I would play from that game.
I think Chase is always the one off that you want to play, because everyone, at least that I've been seeing right now, is like, oh man, T. Higgins buy low. You know what was really big on Twitter? Have you noticed this on Twitter lately, that ever since they did the update, they will just show you like trending topics as well that like maybe that you're interested in along with your normal
terrible.
feed?
Hate it.
So I've seen a lot more like other fantasy football people I didn't even know existed, which I think is a really good thing.
And it's no, it's terrible. I absolutely hate it. I keep those people out of my feed for a reason. I see some of the worst, shittiest takes from these people who have like, and they get like so many favorites and so many retweets and so many interactions, and I'm like, no wonder this game is still profitable to play, because you don't have a fucking clue.
I would go the other way with it, that I think that I found some really good people that I would never have discovered otherwise. I agree with you. There's just some absolutely like trash stuff out there.
Well, you're a better and kinder person than me then.
I mean, that's true. I think we all know that. But
yeah,
I just saw a lot of talk about expected fantasy points this week. A lot of people like trying to victory lap their guys who suck from preseason, being like, yeah, but their expected fantasy points are through the roof. Like T. Higgins is that guy. Here's the thing. Jamar Chase is just better.
Oh, Jamar Chase is way better, but the expected points people are right that unless T. Higgins sucks, there's going to be a big narrowing in their results fairly soon.
Potentially, but when you look at Jamar Chase, like how often do you see T. Higgins take a 2-yard slant, shake 3 guys, then run 80 yards for a touchdown? Never is the answer.
Yeah, no, you are correct that is not really T. Higgins's game, but T is, I mean, they're just very close in terms of targets per game. Routes. Actually, this is true. T. Higgins is averaging more targets per game than Jamar Chase. So I tend to believe that the expected points there will narrow. And maybe I'm wrong, because you are right. Jamar Chase is much better. Jamar Chase is more of a value creator than T. Higgins is, and will probably for his entire career, Jamar Chase will score fantasy points above expectation. And T. Higgins will probably have years where he doesn't. This might be a year where he doesn't. But the price discrepancy between them, I mean, you were getting a huge discount.
Sure. I thought it was just very odd that people are trying to victory lap their bad calls based off expected points. Like I was actually right about this. It never actually happened. DJ Moore is another one. Like you look at DJ Moore, it's like, oh, his expected points are through the roof. Yeah, but he also plays with Sam Darnold and fucking sucks.
I mean, for every Sam Darnold though, there is a Brandon Cooks though situation. Like, I mean, I feel pretty good about that. Well, I'm very happy to own DJ Moore on all my fantasy teams. I don't love that caused me to not have a ton of Cooper Kupp. So like as a binary result, it's fine. But as the optionality meant that I don't have nearly as much Cooper Kupp as I would like.
If we go to receivers, you said you wanted to pay up this week, be it in a stack or as a one-off. Who are the receivers that you'd be paying up for? Is it Debo?
I mean, it's Tyreek. Like Tyreek could be the best price play in like DraftKings history that I can remember.
I do have his ceiling being 3 points higher than any other receiver on this slate.
Is 7,900? Like, I just do not. Is 7,900 the cheapest? I guess the last time he was 8,000, he had 50 against Philadelphia. But this is just one of those prices that I look at DraftKings and I'm like, what are we doing here? Like this, like I don't love when really, really good plays like this are like, cause everyone's going to know to play Tyreek Hill. And it just makes the slate not that fun because like a 33% owned Tyreek Hill is like just going to get there and you're going to need him to win.
Then play Tyreek Hill. Seems pretty easy.
I am going to play Tyreek Hill. I probably will play him on all my teams. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet, but it just makes the slate a little bit less fun because that's one less piece that people have to solve. Like it's just total paint by numbers. Like just click Tyreek Hill in.
Well, if that's the case, then that means that everyone else in the receivers from 7,000 to 8,200 up to Devontae Adams is probably not going to be very highly owned.
Oh, Adams, Debo, Diggs, Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Williams. I would be Adams maybe, but I would be legitimately shocked if any of Debo, Diggs, Chase, Jefferson, or Lamb or Mike Williams came in above like 6%.
And I think the play is Debo if you're not going to play Hill or try to play them both together. Because Debo, if we're talking upside, he's sort of like Jamar Chase in that way too, where he can kind of score from anywhere on the field now.
Yeah, I mean the thing, if I would put on my nerd hat here, I would say that someone of Debo's target depth and catch rate has never sustained that for as long as Debo has. You know, he's seeing an average depth of target. I can look it up here real quick. His average depth of target is like 18.5 yards down the field. He is top 10 in the NFL in it's reception distance and catch rate. So basically either one of two things are going to happen. Either he's going to start catching his passes closer to the line of scrimmage, or he's going to stop catching so many passes.
Yeah, but he does catch a lot of passes close to the line of scrimmage. He really only runs two types of routes: bubble screens and goes.
Right, and basically, if he stops hitting on one go per game, then his statistical profile changes a lot. I'm not trying to FUD Debo Samuel. It's just like his usage profile is not as rock solid as Diggs and Chase particularly.
Yeah, but Diggs has just straight up not been good this year.
He really hasn't. I mean, it's every week Diggs is like the buy low. He's got 100-yard game. He's got 3 touchdowns on the year. He's like Stephon Diggs is now like we have DeAndre Hopkins at home, and it's Stephon Diggs.
Any 6K guys you would go to? Would you go to DJ Moore? Would you go to Brendan Cooks, or is it Marquise Brown at 6,000 is the guy?
I will very likely be playing DJ Moore as a one-off on several teams. Marquise Brown is definitely the best of this range. You got to be pretty worried about what his ownership will be, especially because Lamar projects as the highest owned quarterback. We have Marquise Brown for actually not that bad. We have him for 6% right now. So at 6%, I'm not stressed about that at all. So it'd be DJ Moore and Marquise Brown for me here.
In the current iteration of the projections at runthesims.com, Hollywood Brown is the fourth highest points per dollar receiver on the board right now. The highest being $5,100. Your boy Odell doesn't seem like he's going to be playing no more. Jarvis Landry, $5,100. I mean, if he can score a touchdown, we're golden.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess for me, that's just like a play I don't make all that often, but it's totally legitimate. But, I think like Devonta Smith, Kadarius Toney, Christian Kirk with AJ Green on the COVID list, like all of those guys do look, Jerry Jeudy, all look like better one-offs. But I would, of course, not say that Jarvis Landry is a bad play. And, he basically is like Julian Edelman. He just gets all of those dink and dunks around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and he's prone to have a rushing touchdown, potentially a passing touchdown. They use him in a lot of gadget ways as well. He has a lot of different avenues to score touchdowns, and really that's what I'm looking for is am I going to find someone with volume, and do they have the ability to score multiple touchdowns in a game? I think that he does. The other two that I really like right now, Hunter Renfrow at $4,800. I like Renfrow every single week. He only has one game this season with fewer than 5 catches, which is kind of insane. And you'd think that he'd be a bigger part of this passing game as of now. At $4,800, that seems like a pretty good value to me. That may be more of like a cash play, but I do think that he can score potential multiple touchdowns here. If they don't go to Waller or Moreau in the red zone, it does seem like Renfrow is the guy if they're like more than 5 yards away from the goal line. Because if they're 5 yards away from the goal line, they're just running the ball. If they're anything outside of that, that Renfrow could be the guy who's left alone in the slot. Quez Watkins, I think, is probably a better play than Devonta Smith this week if you're going to take a shot on an Eagles guy. I don't love pass catch.
Why is that?
Just because he's so much cheaper and there's no Reagor. He's going to play like 90% of the snaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not on board with that, but I mean I get the logic, but I Devonta Smith just gets a lot of targets. Like you're not questioning that. I know he got no targets against the Eagles because they didn't need to, but his target volume has been pretty unassailable, and Quez just looks like a very average player to me. Also, that's part of it.
I mean, that entire offense looks like a minor league football offense, and you hope
it's
really
to hit pretty big. Bad. Yeah, it's really not very good. Poor Eagles. I hate them too. So
you said Christian Kirk. He's 53. Higgins is 53. Obviously, you love him. Brian Edwards, 4,100. Could that be a one-off if you need salary savings?
Yeah, that one feels pretty good. I feel like, by the way, people are going to have the wrong response to AJ Green going on the COVID list, which is everyone's going to get excited about. Everyone's going to get excited about Rondale Moore, who probably will not play any more snaps. To be honest, it'll probably just be Kirk moves outside, doesn't play in the slot at all, and they play some of this Antoine Wesley fella who came in and was playing over DeAndre Hopkins last week.
Trying to find it now because I don't know if he's back at practice. I don't know if he's playing for sure. Let's see. The Rams, that's what they played last week. Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to do it. You're going to be proud of me that I'm not going to play Danny Amendola this week.
I mean, I didn't know where that was going to go, but once you got there, I was like, yeah, of course it's Danny Amendola, who is still Danny Amendola, though he does have 5 targets for 3 yards and for 17 yards in each of the Houston Texans' most 2 recent games.
That's pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. That's excellent. You going to play Robbie Anderson? Are you on the Leone ship of playing Robbie Anderson every week?
No. There's a difference between T. Higgins would be a good example of a player who you can look at the expected points, you can look at the snaps, you can look at the volume and be like, that guy is going to positively regress. Why people hate the expected points and the analytics shit is because of guys like Robbie Anderson, where the models will tell you, the volume's been good. Robbie Anderson has been good in the past. Dude, Like, this guy sucks. This guy is averaging 6.3 DK points per game despite all these targets. Like, I'm out. Like, DJ Moore hasn't been good for fantasy in 3 weeks. Why am I playing Robbie Anderson? Like, absolutely not.
Yeah, so I think if you're not going to stack or pay up, I do like the Debo instead of Hill, or if you can play them together, potentially go that route because of all the value running backs. Landry, Renfro, Hollywood Brown, Kadarius Toney, I think would be kind of the 4 one-off guys that I try to mix and match in, and they're all in that mid-range level. Quez Watkins as an upside guy. The only reason I say that because he's $3,800. Like, if you have to save money, of all the 3K guys, feel like he probably has the most upside.
Let's see here. Let me look and see if I can find a shitter lineup, a shitter guy lineup for someone. I mean, Quez is our best guy.
Hardman or Valdez Scantling, like they're both at 39 and 37. Like, they're the type of, all three of those guys are the big play guys. Like, when you used to laugh at me for playing Ted Ginn all the time, but he would be 25 points or 0 points, and those guys feel like the same.
Yeah, I mean Pringle too. Pringle played more snaps than
but Pringle. But Pringle's upside is like 3 for 37 and a touchdown, which I know would get you there. But that's not really what you want out of the 3K guy. I'd rather have the John Rosses of the world who are just going to run go routes all game, and maybe he'll get open.
Yeah, I mean, I just Pringle played the second most snaps amongst Chiefs wide receivers last week, so that
like John,
I'll probably toss him in. In a few. The other guy who's very important to note is if Gallup returns from his calf injury this week, he is 3,900. Amari Cooper, whose name we haven't even mentioned yet, is going to be stone cold chalk, and Gallup is great leverage on him. That is,
I mean, John Ross at 3,200, depending on if Galladay sits, he's going to start on the outside. That's not the craziest play in the world. Like, he does get his down the field shots every single week. He's $3,200. I was trying to find him. Where is Tajay Sharp? How much is he?
I think he's 3,400.
He's 42. That's too much.
Oh man, old Pat would have touted $4,900 Russell Gage coming off of a 0 target game.
I don't like Russell Gage.
Oh, that is an unfair mischaracterization to me. I think the Russell Gage drafters are the worst fantasy football players on earth. And they're reaping what they've sowed.
Hey, listen, this is from someone who tried to have it both ways with like modified 0 RB. It took Mike Davis as my first running back in like the 6th round in a league. So don't listen to what I have to say.
Don't listen to anyone. Follow your heart. If you like Russell Gage, play Russell Gage.
Tight ends, outside of stacks, you mentioned Albert O, no Noah Fant. That just seems like $2,600 is just points per dollar. I think he's the best player
and Albert O, unlike Dan Arnold, Albert O is like actually good and can like move and is fast. So like we do joke about these punt tight ends, but Albert O could like legitimately get 20 here. Like most punt tight ends cannot, but Albert O can, and his team's going to be chucking the whole game too.
Yeah, the only like pivot off of him I could potentially see would actually be Jordan Akins if Pharaoh Brown misses the game again, because he continues to see a bunch of targets, and the way that you attack Miami is at the middle of the field, not on the outside of the field where all of their good players are. You really want to focus in on the slot corners and linebackers who just get absolutely pummeled every single game. And if Jordan Akins is going to be running that many routes like he has been the past 2 weeks, I mean, he's not as good of a play, obviously, as Albert O is going to be. He doesn't have the same upside, but he would have to score a touchdown, but you could get like a 6 for 67 and a touchdown out of him potentially in this game.
Yeah, I think one of the Green Bay tight ends, maybe, for really doing this, Mercedes Lewis, Josiah DeGuara.
Yeah, but Mercedes Lewis just never gets any targets. Like his legit upside is like 2 catches for 9 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And a touchdown. Yeah. That's it.
Like he can't do any, if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's legit getting you no points.
Correct. Yeah, that is.
And even if even if he gets a touchdown, he's not really helping you all that much.
I mean, he might be. So if Albert O throws up an air ball, right? If Albert O has 2 catches for 17 yards, picking a Jordan Akins, a Tommy Tremble, a Mercedes Lewis, a David Njoku who gets 10, however they get it, can actually be pretty useful, because the tight end position is so bad this week. So we have Kelsey, who is obviously the best play and who's going to be underplayed. Waller, who's really strong. Pitts, who doesn't project that well, but obviously has that upside. And then then Andrews, and then Kittle. Kittle maybe is interesting if he comes off the IR actually at 5,200.
Yeah, no, Kittle would be super interesting. I just don't think that he's going to come off the IR because his ownership would be like 0, and he's a cheap price, and he probably won't. We probably won't know until at least Friday, and then he'll just be. Everyone's recorded their shows already. If people are starting to watch now, smart people will end up playing him, and hopefully that turns out well. I'm out on Pitts with Ridley out. Just teams can take him away. That's their only weapon besides.
And the Saints defense is really good. But I mean, I don't know. I will probably toss in some Pitts if he is. Let's see here. We have Kyle Pitts projected for 5% ownership.
Yeah, but where are you getting that? Where are you getting that 5,900 from in your lineup to play Kyle Pitts? Like I would get if you specifically constructed lineups around Travis Kelce, but to find $6,000 for Pitts when you want to pay up at wide receiver, like what are we doing?
All right, let's just make a fake little team here. Let's go Dak. Let's go Jerry Jeudy. Let's go Tyreek Hill, and let's go Amari Cooper. We'll put in. We said Pitts. We got Pitts at tight end. We both like Elijah Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
Let's go Elijah Mitchell, and we'll go Myles Gaskin here, and we'll put in the Browns defense. Is that fine? Browns defense punt?
Sure. Yeah. Go with the Browns.
Sure.
I have better punts, but sure.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't matter for this exercise. And then our flex is just, and it's not great, but it's one of these, shitty wide receivers we talked about, Agnew, someone like that. So I guess what you would want to do ideally for this team actually is you would play Gallup perhaps with Dak or something. But yeah, your point is well taken, which is that it's hard to play Kyle Pitts in a reasonable way.
Especially because you have Albert O there as the logical bringback, especially in that stack you're talking about. So you just keep that lineup open, get rid of Jeudy, get rid of Pitts, put Albert O in at tight end. What are we dealing with now, and how much better is that team?
Well, then you're probably wanting to play CeeDee Lamb for the ownership discrepancy.
Maybe, or you can play Austin Eckler or McCaffrey or whoever.
Yeah, and then you can play Chuba Hubbard, Damian Harris, Marquise Brown at flex or whatever.
Yeah, I just feel like that lineup is better.
That lineup is better if Okuibunum gets 10. That lineup is, obviously a lot worse if Kyle Pitts is 3% owned and gets 27.
I mean, 27's a big ask. I'm looking at the ceiling projection for Kyle Pitts right now. It's 25 points.
I mean, Kyle Pitts got 26 against Miami and 30 against the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, he can clearly do it.
Yeah. You know who he's not playing this week? Someone in the AFC East.
That's true. Man, how lucky is Buffalo that they are just in this shit division?
Well, it's really tough to figure out how good Buffalo actually is because I think that they're really good, but going into the play, it's tough because Josh Allen is still, I think, the favorite right now at DraftKings Sportsbook to win MVP. But we're going to get to the playoffs and people aren't going to be sold on the Bills despite all their numbers checking out. Like they might be the 1 or 2 seed going into it. It's like, oh, they played this soft schedule. And people could be right that they're not legit. And it's going to be hard to know. But there could be some value on the Bills that people are underrating them because of the competition that they've had to play. It's like, are we underrating Dallas because they play against the shit teams of the NFC East? No, not really.
Dallas is the best team in the NFL, and I don't think that's a very popular opinion.
I don't think that Dallas is the best team in the NFL, but that's me.
See, you're underrating them.
I would think that I actually think right now, as currently constructed, with injuries being what they are, that the Rams are probably the best. The Rams or the Bucks are probably the best 2 teams.
Yeah. The Rams are very good. I don't know. Doesn't it feel like we're all waiting for the rug to be pulled with the Rams in some degree? It's like no one wants to believe that the Rams are actually this good, which I guess is kind of reflective of my opinion.
Well, I think that there are 2 things that people are waiting for. I think one is that they're just going to have this like slip up and lose to a really terrible team. And that Kansas City is just going to go undefeated for the rest of the year. People are just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen, man. I am stressed about the Chiefs. They really suck right now. I mean, that Giants game, I know they won, but that's probably the most depressed I've ever been watching the Chiefs.
I can see that. So
that was a more depressing game than the Titans game, because like at least the Titans were playing well. You're like, well, shit. I mean, sometimes the team just beats you, but the Giants were like doing everything wrong and still could have won that game.
If we look at other tight ends, like Goddard at 45, I actually think is a pretty good play. If Waller doesn't go, Moreau is obviously the best play on the slate at $3,000, I think.
Totally. And makes double tight end lineups a real thing. But yeah, if Waller does not go with Derek Carrier on the IR still, I mean, Foster Moreau played every snap for the Las Vegas Raiders before their bye week. He would be an incredible play.
Defenses. I'll make this easy for you. Use the Raiders or use the Texans. Done.
I have no issue with this analysis. I also think the Chiefs defense at 2% ownership in these tournaments or whatever, because Jordan Love apparently was so bad in practice for the Packers last year that he was behind Tim Boyle. So I think there's a real chance that Jordan Love comes out and just sucks it up. Now, of course, we run the risk of the Packers just trying to run the ball 40 times. But if the Chiefs offense looks anything like the Chiefs offense of yore, they could be down, in a 21-0 hole real quick.
Yeah, I don't like them. I don't like the Chiefs defense this week because of those two things. One, they can't get to the passer whatsoever.
At all.
And I would expect them to be facing a lot of both rushing attempts and very short passing, quick attempts, which are not conducive to sacks or picks unless it's just wildly misthrown, which even Jordan Love.
It's a bet on the offense. You're basically, if you're playing the Chiefs defense, you're saying the offense is able to get up by so much that Jordan Love has to go out and make mistakes.
I would say the Texans are the better play because fewer people are going to play. They're going to put fewer people are going to play the Texans than play the Chiefs. They're going up against the worst pass blocking offensive line in football with a team that all of a sudden is passing way above expectations. So if you can face 40 to 45 Tua passes in a game where no one can block for them, that sounds pretty good. And if you just go look at their pass rush, like the past 3 weeks, it's like top 10 in the league. All of a sudden, the Texans are getting to the quarterback a little bit, which is enough against the Dolphins.
Apparently they have like some good young pass rushers or whatever. I mean, God forbid, I don't know anyone on the Texans roster, but I saw some real football guys tweeting about that the other day.
And then if you take the biggest discrepancy between pass rush and offensive line this week, the Raiders have the number 1 pass rush in football. The Giants have the 3rd worst pass blocking offensive line. So just do that. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm looking here at someone else who might be. I mean, if Colt McCoy or Chris Streveler starts for the Arizona Cardinals, the San Francisco 49ers defense is going to be quite the play. Do we know if Trent Williams is playing this week?
See, what is he? He's a tackle, right?
That is correct.
I don't know who he plays for.
He plays for San Francisco.
According to. He did not practice yesterday.
So the one thing that the Cardinals are a very bad run defense. They harass the passer. And the 49ers offensive line has been brutal without Trent Williams on it as being one of the best offensive linemen and left tackles in football. That maybe you could get away with the Cardinals defense, although I think that they're expensive, aren't they? Let's see, where are they at?
They are.
Yeah.
They are 3,400.
The other one I would potentially think about as good leverage, I don't think it's a great play, but the Ravens defense at $3,000. Minnesota can't block for the life of them. They can score points, but I'm not too worried about that if all of a sudden Baltimore's defense can get a score, then Lamar being the highest owned quarterback on the slate, you can take some leverage off of him just by using the Ravens defense at $3,000. I much prefer the Raiders for $100 less, but I can understand why people would want to do that. I mean, hell, if you have the money, pay for the Saints at $3,700. Like that's gonna be just right in 10 points into your defense spot for the Saints defense. But if they don't score a touchdown, it's probably not gonna be more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't tried to talk people into the Patriots defense against Sam Darnold.
They were too expensive for me.
It's just too pricey.
It's $4,100. Like I think it makes a lot of sense, obviously, but I'm just not paying that. I'd rather pay for the Bills defense at $4,000 if I was going to pay up. Like, just give me guys against shitty Trevor Lawrence.
The Bills defense is good, right? That's what we just said.
Yeah, like if we're just looking at pure pass rush, I mean, you could potentially get away with the I super locked that game in. That's the game that I have the most money on this week is the Chargers. I could have bet them -1 for minus. I bet them -1, -110. I don't understand how they're now 1.5 point favorites in Philadelphia. Like that line makes no sense to me. Maybe it's because I consider the Chargers to be a good team and the Eagles to be a bad team, and maybe I'm just completely.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing, but here's the thing. Don't you feel like every time that you're like, oh, this line is way off, don't you feel like you just get owned by something you didn't expect?
Potentially, and maybe it's just that I've overrated how good that the Chargers are. But the Eagles are the Broncos the Eagles are the Broncos of the NFC. They are going to lose to any team that is good, and they're going to beat any team that's bad.
That is a real thing. I mean, both things you just said are true. Where the Eagles are going to smoke bad teams and lose to good teams, but also, you know, the media, the big mainstream media fell in love with the Chargers after like 4 weeks, which they always do. One of the most predictable storylines in the NFL is that the Chargers will start out well, then start to suck and get hurt. You know, that's just what once I heard people debating, you know, would you rather have Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes for the next 10 years? I was like, well, let's we all know what's coming for the Chargers after that.
Well, if you tuned into Wednesday's show, you would hear a case being made that Mike White is actually better than Justin Herbert.
Well, I mean, shout out. I have like the Jets stuff that comes from him is so delusional that I'm like either worried about his mental health or have to think that he's in on the bit at this point, because for someone to seriously believe the things about the Jets that he believes would make him so divorced from reality that I would question everything else in his life. Like it's so weird.
I watch the games with him now every single Sunday, and it is just he's so irrationally happy when they do something well and just so down when things don't go exactly in the most perfect way possible that it's not a bit. Like he rides the emotional roller coaster of the Jets. It's really bizarre.
It is very bizarre. I don't understand it because when my teams are bad, when the teams that I like are bad, I cordon myself off emotionally so they can't hurt me anymore. So I don't understand living and dying with like the third worst team in the NFL.
So here's the case that I'll make for the Chargers and potentially even the Chargers offense in this game. Like I said, I love Eckler. That's probably the spot that I'm going to use on this team. But look at the schedule they played. Like Cowboys, Chiefs, Raiders, Browns, Ravens, Patriots. We all consider those to be pretty good teams, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with this take with you on the Chargers.
So you might be. I mean, their pass rush, the Eagles' pass rush is good. Their their run defense very bad, at least per the numbers. So maybe you can use some Eckler and just get sort of like fake McCaffrey upside from that. Like the Cardinals' defense would be the only other defense outside of. I would probably rank them Raiders in terms of value. Raiders, Texans, Ravens, and where are the Cards are 3,400. That's a lot of money. I'd probably just find money for the Saints at that point or the Bills. And I'm not going to do that, so it doesn't matter. Cowboys? Cowboys D?
I mean, Teddy has been turning the ball over and been eating some sacks. I just never pay up for defenses. Like I think that 1 week where DK mispriced the Cardinals, I did, but pretty much every week I'm just playing one of the $2,500 or less defenses.
The only time that I pay up for defense is when the Patriots play a rookie quarterback. That's it. And it usually works out really well.
Yeah. I mean, that's like Bill Belichick's whole thing, right? Is he just destroys these rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, like in week 2, people didn't play the Patriots defense. I know they were expensive against Zoomer Zach, and it was like, what are we doing here? Like this is going to be a horrible
Zoomer
game.
Zach.
I feel like you would like Zoomer Zach. Yeah. I mean, he's out from eating Tide Pods right now. But
no, he's such a loser, dude. You think I'd like a Mormon kid who looks like he's 16?
I mean, why you can? I didn't realize you had such a hate on for Mormon people, Davis.
No, he's just everything about Zach Wilson seems weird. I've yet to see one moment of him being like cool or authentic or genuine. Like it's all weird. He sucks at football. He was like one of the most overrated prospects and overdrafted prospects. Like, why would I'm a little offended. You think I'd like Zach Wilson, who's like a weirdo and has a weird like mom who thinks she's like 27, Weird stuff with Zach Wilson.
I just don't think that he's any good. I hope Mike White is good, though. I think it's good for my show, and I want to see the internal struggle that comes in, because Cuss was all in on Zoomer Zach, but now he's like, well, maybe Mike White is Tom Brady, so who knows?
I mean, it could be the greatest AFC East backup quarterback story of all time.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, the Jets unlocked Brady 20 years ago. Maybe the Patriots unlocked Mike White right now.
I mean, I just tend to think Mike White's running really hot on checkdowns. I think it's pretty unlikely he's good. I mean, I think it's like 45% of his passes have gone to Ty Johnson and Michael Carter. That generally is not a recipe for success for NFL offenses.
I mean, it's essentially what Tua does, except Jalen Waddle runs running back routes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Tua should be like winning MVP. It's good for DFS.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience, playing the Listeners League. What do you got going on? When does the Swolecast come out? Friday night?
Swolecast should be live right now. Wednesdays, yeah. we got the Takecast, Sports Grid, Fantasy Football Podcast, all that good stuff. DailyRoto.com for all the projections, the optimizers. You guys know the drill. I
enjoyed your discussion with Pizzola a few weeks ago. Pizzola will be on my show tomorrow, as he is every Friday, but I thought that was a good one.
Sharp fella. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking with him. He's a sharp guy. I love talking with people who are very serious about what they do.
I enjoy it too, because maybe people don't know this. Like, Pizzola wins the most. Like, he's the only real sports bettor that we have on Mayo Media Network who like professionally does it. But when he comes on the show, he gives like the worst picks. It's hilarious. And Cam just crushes him every week. It's kind of hilarious.
It's what we say. It's what we say is tremendous content when you can have a winning sports bettor giving losing picks,
and then having me and Cam giving out winning picks against him, which is just not how it actually works in reality.
But it's all for the people. The people like it. It's all good. Yeah, I mean, Pizzola is a very sharp guy and also very entertaining. Sometimes people who are very intelligent have a hard time being entertaining, and he doesn't have that problem.
No, I think it's just he comes from, it's really weird. Like, the old Score radio network had Gabe and Cam as like the main hosts of like the nighttime stuff. And like Feinberg worked there, Pizzola worked there, and there's like 3 other guys who are also super hilarious. I feel like everyone just got a part of that culture and just learned how to do entertaining content.
Well, I mean, that's kind of is how those things work. Like, people who all learn something together and then branch out. Like, it's like good seasons of SNL, right? Good seasons versus bad seasons of SNL. You can always tell afterward, what was going on in that room.
All right. Oh, looks like Deebo Samuel is now hurt. Great.
He didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice Wednesday last week either.
Okay, good. Let's see. No, it just says, let's see. I don't know. I sometimes worry about calf injuries. As long as he's active, I'm good with playing him. I just keep an eye on him. That's all I'll say.
Always keep an eye out for the leg injuries.
Yeah, playing the Listeners League this week.
I'm in. When it's posted, I'm in. I will be in the Listeners League this week.
It's already posted. You just go to Wednesday's show and find the link if you really want to.
All right, there we go. I'm literally going to go do it right now.
Sub to the newsletter as well. That's down in the description. runthesims.com/Mayo. Sub to the network. Follow Davis on Twitter at Davis Mattek. You can follow me at the PME. I do the free Millionaire Maker ticket giveaway every single Wednesday at noon Eastern time. If you want to try to get one of 50 tickets into the Millionaire Maker, I'll have Kashi as a retweet. So you should probably go do that. If you're looking for some free tickets, why not, right? Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience.
We did notice the moment we stopped recording, we forgot to do the shitter guy lineup. We got to build a lineup. Well, we're taking a shit on Sunday morning Sunday afternoon at like 12:45 Eastern time. There's a few spots left in the Millie Maker right now, Davis. We need to build a lineup to get in. Who are we taking?
So shitter guy always starts with his quarterback, right?
Correct. And it's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. You are correct. Lamar Jackson is the guy.
Does that mean, I guess people will know about Albert O this week, right?
Shitter guy. If he's watched one minute of free content this week, he knows to play Albert O.
Okay, so Albert O is in, Lamar Jackson is in. So I guess that makes Hollywood Brown. Do we go Hollywood Brown or Bateman as the guy to put with Lamar Jackson? Do you think Shitter Guy would do?
So one thing, okay, they removed the red Q from Bateman. Shitter Guy never plays the guy with the red Q next to his name, but I still think it's Hollywood Brown.
So Hollywood Brown is one of the receivers. You said Amari Cooper is going to be like ultra chalk, right?
Stone chalk, yeah.
So we'll go Cooper and Hollywood Brown, throw those two guys in. Where are you at? Marquise Brown, Amari Cooper. All right, we got 5,600 left. You think for sure, you think Tyreek's going to be that popular?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, dude, everyone just watched him get 19 targets on Monday night.
Okay, so that leaves us with $5,100 left for 2 running backs, a flex, and a defense.
So Shitter Guy's definitely playing Elijah Mitchell.
Is Elijah Mitchell going to be, you said 12% ownership?
Yeah, Shitter Guy. So right now,
I feel like Shitter Guy is playing Zach Moss is who they're playing.
You think? I mean, I don't feel we have Alvin Kamara, Eli Mitchell, Austin Eckler, Ezekiel Elliott, Josh Jacobs, and Dalvin Cook as the running backs projected above 10% ownership. But that's going to change for sure because Dalvin will not be that. So that will definitely change.
All right, we'll go with Elijah Mitchell at 58. Who is the other running back? Do we put in Boston Scott, Melvin Gordon, Zach Moss? Like they're all potentially in play here.
I feel like Shitter Guy is into Zach Moss.
All right, so we'll throw in Zach Moss. Let's pick a defense. Who is like the chalky defense that isn't super expensive?
I feel like the Panthers maybe. I don't know. Dude, I can't get into Shitter Guy's head with the defense. I can't do.
I feel like it's going to be the Saints. Saints D, $3,700, not the most expensive. No Calvin Ridley, good defense. Just it tracks.
And then we can do
$5,700.
We could do double tight end with Mark. Shitter Guy's not doing double.
No, Shitter Guy is most definitely not doing double tight end.
So we got Daryl here, who I think is a really strong play. I don't know if Shitter Guy remembers Derek Gore scoring the rushing touchdown on Monday night, though. Does Shitter Guy go Cole Beasley, maybe?
Oh, that actually seems pretty good. Especially now that everyone's back on after Aaron Rodgers. Like, I don't know if you can necessarily quantify what he said was a lie about being vaccinated, but it seemed misleading what he had said. Now people are like pro Cole Beasley. It's like, at least he had the guts to say that he was unvaxxed.
Honestly, I never thought that would be my take, but at least Cole Beasley is enough to like him, like Kirk Cousins and Cole Beasley are like, if I die, I die. You know, I feel like what Rodgers did is so slimy.
Yeah, I completely agree. At least with Cole Beasley, he had the integrity to tell you where he stood.
Yeah, like no one is questioning where Cole Beasley stands on any of this. But Rodgers is Rodgers the weirdest guy who's ever been an NFL, like a popular NFL quarterback. Like what a weird person Aaron Rodgers is.
I know, and I was reading the story yesterday about how like Shailene Woodley makes her own soap and toothpaste. Just weird stuff.
Yeah, and they have like crystals all over their house. Like just weird stuff going on there.
Yeah, well, you need to get your chi right if you're going to persevere in life, Davis.
I guess right.
Like that sounds like another MLM scam. That like the same people that I see pushing crystals and essential oils on my Facebook feed are all people who are like caught up in pyramid schemes.
Yes, which is what essential oils are.
But I mean, if you're at the top of a pyramid scheme, like Aaron Rodgers probably would be, then it's probably a pretty good payday. You get paid in Bitcoin.
Yeah, Rodgers getting in, which is so. It's he does the Bitcoin giveaway, and then he comes out as the essential oils guy. The Bitcoin community really has been bumming me out like the last 6 months.
Really? That's such a opposite zag for you.
Yeah, they're really just bumming me out. Like the big like real Bitcoin people, they hate NFTs. They're like. They're like, well, you're getting scammed. It's not work. Like, it's, I don't know. Like the Bitcoin was like amazing and everyone was so productive and helpful and stuff in like 2015. And now I just feel like everyone's toxic and angry. And it's just, it's a very tough scene for the Bitcoin people. They do not like feeling irrelevant in the crypto space for sure.
Well, it seems like everything that people said about Bitcoin in order to drag it down, this is a scam, this is fool's gold, everything is just what Bitcoin people say about NFTs now.
Yes, which I find incredibly hypocritical. And what it's become is now people are negatively attacking other things, whether it be, the US dollar, whether it be Ethereum, whether it be NFTs. Like it's all negative energy about other things instead of, the positive things that exist about Bitcoin and about what Bitcoin can do, which is it's just a huge bummer because it's not the energy I would prefer to occupy myself with.
Experience!